chicken the corn on a corn can grow, mama. Hey, when chicken the corn on a corn can grow. Hey, when chicken the corn so the corn can grow, mama. Hey, when chicken the corn so the corn can grow.
Welcome back, Outlaws. On today's episode, we're going to be checking out a custom chicken coop that I built from scratch. Stay tuned. I built this coop before I had anything to record what I had done. So this video will just be a brief overview of some of the things that I did and I ran into in hopes it'll help somebody else building their own coop. Some of you may have seen or watched a previous video that I had done on the Producer's Pride Sentinel chicken coop. This is a smaller coop that we had got at Tractor Supply and put together and customized to fit our needs. This is a great secondary and backup coop for us. With recent inflation, the cost of the smaller coop has almost doubled in price, so building your own coop may be a great option. Rodent and predator control was my primary focus on this outdoor portion and the rest of the coop. As you can see here, I used small mesh, 1/2 inch, on the bottom and used the larger chicken wire on the top. We have lots of snakes and rats and everything else trying to get into this coop. Rats and mice can still squeeze their way in through the fine wire, but my main concern was squirrels and larger animals and snakes. As you can see here, the squirrels tried to chew their way in, but gave up after a while. We also have raccoons, possums, and coyotes that will try to make their way in to the chickens. As you can see here, I've also put the 1/2 inch mesh across the window to prevent any of those animals from making their way in through the window and through the screen into the coop. One of the places that predators and rodents can get in is the door. As you can see here, I've used a piece of diamond plate on a guillotine-style door to help prevent that from happening. A little further on, I'll go over this door and how it operates and the benefits of its design. This is a view of the front of the coop, showing the routing of the cable as it comes out of the top across the roof. What this does is this will allow you to open the door without entering the coop, just by merely pulling the cable down from the outside. I also added this strip at the bottom to help keep rodents from entering the coop. I built this coop to house about 10 full-grown hens, and so far it seems to be working out great. Building my own coop was a cost-effective way to get all the options that I wanted in a chicken coop. I was able to build the coop using some materials that I had laying around my yard already. If anybody has any questions, please put them in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. As you can see, originally I put chicken wire on the top. That added an extra layer of protection to keep larger animals from entering from the top. After that, I added the corrugated metal to add an additional layer of security and protection from rain. The dimensions of this outside run are 8 foot by 8 foot by 7 foot high, and the corrugated roofing I used was 10 foot long by 2 foot sections. Underneath here, we've also added chicken wire to protect from animals digging under. Taking a look here, you can see that I've added these 3 holes for ventilation, putting screen behind them, also to keep rodents and insects from entering. When designing and building your chicken coop, ventilation is a very important thing that you need to take into consideration. Taking a look on this side here, you can see that I used 2x6 pressure-treated lumber at the base of the run and 4x4 pressure-treated in the corners to add support. Some of you may have these materials laying around or know somebody who has them and is not using them. It's a great way to save a little money. I was able to save about 25% when building this coop by using recycled materials. Taking a look at the door, you can see that I've added more ventilation at this level. This promotes a different level of airflow through the coop. The ones below draw in from below, and these draw in from a little higher, and they all flow through the window in the back. Also, I've added a security light. Let's check the door out a little closer now, and look at the routing of the cable. I used a series of pulleys to help guide the cable through, to make it easy to be able to pull it up. The main purpose of this design was to make it easy to open the door and close it without entering the outside run. By attaching a clip at the end of the cable, you can secure it here to keep the door in the open position. Looking at the door a little closer, you can see below where the rats and mice had already chewed their way in and were trying to get into the main coop. I was able to completely stop them by adding a small piece of this diamond plate to the threshold of the door. I placed another piece of channel aluminum on the outside of the door so that when the aluminum guillotine slides down, the rats or the mice won't have a piece of wood that they can chew on to get in. I also added this spring. Sometimes when a door gets wet, it swells a little bit. This spring helps give it a little kick when you pull it up. Taking a look back here at the edge of the roof, you can see that we have a bit of an overhang. This is because this is where most of the rain and the sun come from. This adds a little bit of protection from both of those elements. I also used 2 coats of exterior paint to help protect the wood. Taking a look underneath, you can see that I built the coop 2 feet off the ground. This was to protect from rodents coming in and nesting under the coop, and also predators from digging underneath. I used a 4x8 sheet of marine grade plywood for the floor. We went with the corrugated roofing for 2 reasons. We have 40-pound raccoons that like to climb up on top and cave in the wire. We also get rainstorms here that flood. This prevented both of those things from happening. I was able to find this roofing in 10-foot lengths at Home Depot. Taking a look topside, we installed a shingle roof. We put tar paper down below with shingles on top and a drip edge below. Looking at the window, I found it at a garage sale for $10. I couldn't pass that up. In the winter, we close it, and in the summer, it stays open. In the back, you could just make out the 3 ventilation holes in the door. What this does is this causes a cross ventilation, allowing the air to flow from the bottom ones and the top ones and come through and out the window. Now let's check out the nesting box. I built this on the outside so you can lift the lid and get the eggs without ever entering the coop. I used a piano hinge across the top to help keep dust and dirt and bugs out. It's also behind the edge of the roof line so that when the rain drops down, it won't hit the hinge. It'll hit past that and drop off the edge of the top. A hasp and a carabiner have been put on the side to also keep the raccoons from getting in. As you can see here, we have 3 nesting bays. With 2 screws, this board at the bottom can be removed so that all the partitions can be taken out and the whole nesting box can be easily cleaned. Let's take a quick look inside and see what we got going on in there. On the inside, you see that I've painted the interior of the coop. I've also added silicone sealant into all the joints to help keep insects and bugs from living in the cracks. We coated the inside with this with a type of elastomeric roofing sealant. What this does is this allows us to be able to wash the whole thing out with a hose. Mites are a big issue with the chickens, so this really makes it easy to keep the mites down to a minimum. We also have different size roosting bars for the chickens to roost on at night. There's nothing special or elaborate about their food or water. We just have the food hanging from a chain up off the ground and the water sitting up on some bricks. Maybe later I'll go ahead and do something a little different with this, but for now this works for us. It's also inside the coop so that the rats and mice can't get to it on the outside. When it's time to clean the coop, we save all the shavings and we compost them. This is always a great thing for the garden, and it's easy to do. Here's a look at the inside of the door on the screen that I put in to keep the bugs and rodents from entering the coop. I also dug down and used 6 concrete pylons to attach the base of the coop to. I used all decking screws on this project. I also sealed all the corners with trim. And here's another quick look at the nesting box, just so you could see it from the side and below. I left about a foot overhang on either side of the coop so that when the rain drips off, it keeps the run from flooding. Thanks for joining us, and that's the end of this chicken coop tour.